The 2021 MLB season is here, and although the seats may not be full, your bankroll has the chance to be. Greg Hoops Peterson has you covered for every game, every day this season, along with comprehensive analysis and angles for getting to the window while celebrating the walk-off winners and blown saves of what will be a wild season. Now it is time for the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson.
A warm and friendly hello, welcome to Lobby Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. We have got postseason baseball, ladies and gentlemen, as unfortunately we will not have any game 163s, but we did see a great day of baseball on Sunday. So here in the first segment, we're going to be recapping that. Unfortunately, the Seattle Mariners will not be partaking in the postseason, but pre- and post-game host Curtis Rogers, he has been dialed in on both the Seattle Mariners and the American League playoff picture all season long. He's going to be joining me in the second segment. We're going to be taking a look at what we're going to be able to get out of the American League Wild Card game, the Division Series, and so much more. And then in the final segment, we do have set pitching matchups for both the National League and the American League wildcard game, so going to give you a signed total on both as of right now, and a little something you like to call, touch them all. First things first, always love to be able to answer your Twitter questions on this podcast. If you got one or two ways, we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM. Name does not matter, so please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in your questions, comments, segment ideas, what have you, into that 5-star review, as there is a comments box for that. Did not wind up getting in any questions today, but let's take a look back at the final day of the MLB regular season, try to find some trends, and try to figure out how we've got the postseason picture that we do.
What happened yesterday? Let's go around the bases and find out.
It was not looking good for the Boston Red Sox early in their game against the Washington Nationals. They get down by a count of 5-1 after 5, so hopefully you didn't wind up taking a first 5 in this one, but the Red Sox rattle off 6 consecutive runs to be able to avoid a game 163, and they get the job done by a count of 7-5. Chris Sale, not sharp in this one. He did not wind up going long at all. He winds up giving up 2 runs over the course of 2 1/3 innings. You have Eda Kazusato-Mota from there, 1 2/3 innings scoreless, and then Garrett Richards, well, he pooped the bed in this one, giving up 3 runs over the course of an inning, but Martin Perez, Garrett Woodlock, Eduardo Rodriguez, Nick Pivetta, all give you scoreless innings, as it was all hands on deck for the Boston Red Sox, but the real hands on deck were when it came to the bats. Rafael Devers, pair of home runs, 37th and 38th home runs of the season. One of those was off of a man making his first career start in Yohan Adon. If you're wondering who Yohan Adon is, he wound up pitching much of the year at high A baseball. He wound up going 5 1/3 innings, giving up 2 runs, so give him credit. And then Eric Fetty Wap from there. Whopped all over this game. Gave up 3 runs over the course of 2/3 of an inning. Patrick Murphy, 2/3 of an inning, scoreless. You had Andres Machado give you 4 outs out of the bullpen with Kyle Finnegan, a man that has just been used too much by the Nationals. Gives up 2 runs, one of which was earned, only got 1 out. And then you wind up getting a pair of outs out of John Romano, as you wind up having for the Washington Nationals a team that winds up going 3 of 13 with men in scoring position. Juan Soto tried to help out his MVP case, but struck out 3 times. And Zier with a .465 on base. The LA Dodgers were hoping to be able to force a game 163 of their own, and they got the job done against the Brewers. They held up their end of the bargain, 10-3 the final. I have no idea what the Brewers were doing when it came to their pitching, as Brett Anderson is serving apparently as an opener, as he wound up giving a scoreless inning. John Del Gustave from there, 2 scoreless innings. Hunter Strickland gave you a scoreless inning. Brad Boxberger gave you an out of the bullpen after Aaron Ashby gave up 6 runs while providing just 2 outs, including giving up a bomb going deep for the Dodgers. Trey Turner down for what? His 28th home run season. Matt Beattie would go deep a little bit later off of Daniel Norris for his 7th home run season, as Mr. Norris gives up 3 runs in an inning. Josh Hader pitched in like the 7th inning in this one, going a scoreless inning. Brent Suter gives up a run in an inning. That was just a mismatch of things. I think that the Brewers were just trying to get guys work, and for the Dodgers, Walker Buehler, he winds up going fewer than 6 innings for just the 4th time this year, but he looked very sharp in this one. Punching out 11, he goes 5 innings, giving up 1 run. Phil Bickford, Justin Brule, they combine for a scoreless inning, and then you get 3 scoreless out of Andre 3000 Jackson, so The Dodgers were able to get it done as the Brewers. They wind up going 3 of 10 with men in scoring position, but they just weren't able to have as much hard contact as the Dodgers. But it was all in vain for the Dodgers as the champions of the National League West. That would be the San Francisco Giants, 11-4 of the final. And for the San Diego Padres, they closed the year having gone 12-34 in their last 46 games. I mean, gasp. That is bad for the Padres. They go 2 of 7 with men in scoring position. Reese Kennard winds up getting the start. He goes 3 innings, giving up 2 runs. Dinelson Lamet, the mishandling of him is literally a tragedy. He gives up 4 runs and he gets just 1 out. Craig Salmon, he gives up a run while getting just 2 out. Nabel Christmas has to come in for 3 innings, giving up 4 runs, and it got so bad that James Norwood pitched an inning of this game scoreless. And for the San Francisco Giants, going deep for them, Mr. Logan Webb, the pitcher, winds up getting his first home run season. As for the San Francisco Giants, in Logan Webb's last 22 starts, they wind up going 20-2 in them. He does wind up giving up 4 runs in this one, but the offense and his bat in general was able to help out the cause there. Dominic Leon, a scoreless inning, and then a San Francisco Giants team that led the league in the majors in ERA throughout the regular season winds up coming up with a scoreless inning from the duo of Kervin Castro along Jarlin Garcia. So the Giants able to get it done. The Yankees avoid having to play a game 163 as Aaron Judge delivers the lone run of the game in the 9th inning, 1-0 the final. Michael Wacha, and as you always hear on this podcast, we go with the dying Pac-Man voice from Waka 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 Waka. Well, he certainly was not a dying Pac-Man in this one. 5 scoreless innings from him. JT Chargois, Colin McHugh, David Robertson, all able to provide a scoreless inning, but Josh Fleming winds up going a third of an inning. He winds up blowing the walk-off hit for Aaron Judge as the Tampa Bay Rays had their chances, but they went 0 of 11 with men in scoring position. Jamison Taillon, 3 1/3 inning scoreless. Wandy Peralta gives you 4 outside the bullpen. Clay Holmes, Chad Green were both able to give you a scoreless inning. Aroldis Chapman does as well, and then Jonathan Loaizaga, 1 1/3 inning scoreless. So the New York Yankees able to get it done despite getting just 4 hits on Sunday. The Blue Jays had to knock off the Baltimore Orioles to be able to keep their playoff hopes alive, and they did their part. They absolutely thrashed the just poor poopy Baltimore Orioles, who lose 110 games for the season, 12-2 the final in this one. Bruce Zimmerman with 2 ends at the end of Zimmerman. He was not good. He gave up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning, including a home run. Marcos Stiplin winds up giving up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings. He gave up a home run. Eric Hanold gave up 4 runs in an inning. He gave up a home run. Joey Kriebel, he winds up giving up a home run and 3 runs in total in his 2 innings. Dylan Tate, fortunately, was able to go 2 scoreless innings, and Connor Green a scoreless inning. And for the Baltimore Orioles, you did have a home run off the bat of a young gun and Mr. Tyler Nevin. That is of relation to Phil Nevin. His first home run, so that was a little bit of a bright spot, but for the Blue Jays, George Springer goes deep twice. 21st, 22nd home runs of the season. Marcus Semien, 45th home run season. Vlad Guerrero Jr. ties Salvador Perez for the home run lead in the big leagues with his 48th home run season. And Hyun-Jin Ryu closes out the year strong. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. Nate Pearson and Adam Simber both give you a scoreless inning. And then Jacob Barnes and Julian Merriweather, they both give up a run in their inning of work, but they were unable to make the postseason, and neither was the Seattle Mariners as they wind up losing to the LA Angels by a count of 7-3, ending what was really a fairy tale ride for the Seattle Mariners, considering the run differential at the end of the year was right around -50. We'll talk about this a little bit more with our good buddy Curtis Rogers on the other side, but for the Angels, their 2 All-Stars stepped up in this one. Shohei Ohtani, future MVP, 46th home run season. He reaches 100 RBI. Jared Walsh, 29th home run season. Reed Detmers winds up opening up a game of which was pretty much a bullpen game. Gives up 2 runs in 1 2/3 innings. From there, you wind up having Mr. Oliver Ortega give you a 1 1/3 inning scoreless. Sam Selman gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen. Mike Myers, not so funny. He gives up a run in 1 2/3 innings. Jose Quijada gives you 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And Raziel Iglesias and AJ Ramos both give you a scoreless inning. As for the Seattle Mariners, they wind up going 3 of 11 with men in scoring position, as it was Tyler Anderson who was called upon for the start, and he did not do what the Seattle Mariners were hoping he would. Gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned while providing just 5 outs. You don't mess with the Yohan Ramirez was able to give you 4 outs out of the bullpen. Anthony Machevich, Aaron Swanson, they provide a combined 2 innings but give up 3 runs in the process. From there, you wind up having Sean Doolittle give you 4 outs out of the bullpen. Pair of outs out of Mr. Andres Munoz, and Casey Sadler and Drew Seckenrider both give you a scoreless inning. So the Seattle Mariners season is now done. The Arizona Diamondbacks season was done before it starts, but they avoid getting 111 losses, and they avoid being the absolute worst team in baseball, as they and the Baltimore Orioles tied for the worst record in baseball with 110 losses. They get a walk-off winner by a count of 5-4. It was Ashton Gadu who wound up getting the start for the Colorado Rockies, and actually looked halfway decent. 3 scoreless innings out of him. Daniel Bard gives up 1 run in 2 innings. Lucas Gilbreth, a scoreless inning, and then the poopy Colorado Rockies bullpen showed its true colors in this one. Tyler Kinley, Jordan Sheffield, they combined for 2 innings, giving up 3 runs in the process. Carlos Esteves winds up giving up a walk-off homer as going deep for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Josh Van Meter in the 9th inning, his 6th home run season, and it was Humberto Mejia who wound up getting the start, and there's not a lot of upside with him. He gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned over the course of 4 2/3 innings. Joe Manatipley winds up giving you it out of the bullpen, but then Sean Poppin, Taylor Widener, Noe Ramirez, and J.B. Wendell can all provide a scoreless inning, as the Colorado Rockies in this one do go just 2 of 10 with men in scoring position. So the Arizona Diamondbacks close out the season on a high note, and for the Rockies, after they wound up starting out 6-33 on the road, I believe that they wound up going 19-19 in their last 38 road games, so they were able to close out the season a little bit better there. A team that did not close out the season well, the New York Mets, they wound up getting shut out by a count of 5-0 against the Atlanta Braves, as Noah Thor Syndergaard was able to pitch his 2nd inning since the end of the 2019 season, and it didn't go well. He wound up giving up 2 runs, including a home run to Ode Soler in his inning of work, 27th home run season. From there, you wind up having Trevor Williams go 5 innings, giving up 3 runs in the process. Ethan Embry, Robbie Gazelman, both give you a scoreless inning, and for the Mets, just absolutely nothing doing in offense. Charlie Morton, 2 2/3 innings scoreless. From there, Tyler Madzik, Luke Jackson, Will Smith, all give you a scoreless inning. You wind up getting 2 scoreless innings out of Chris Martin, and then 1 1/3 out of Spencer Strider. So the Atlanta Braves firing all cylinders going into the postseason. This one wound up going only 8 innings due to rain, but the Chicago Cubs were able to avoid getting to 92 losses, 3-2. They take down the St. Louis Cardinals. This is the first time that the St. Louis Cardinals have lost back-to-back games since dinosaurs roamed the earth. As for the Chicago Cubs, a relatively solid start, and I guess you could call it piggybacking, of Alec Mills along Joe Biagini. Biagini, 3 scoreless innings. Mills winds up giving up 2 runs over the course of 4 innings, including a home run. Going deep for the St. Louis Cardinals, Tommy Edman, 11th home runs of the season, and then Jake Woodford gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings. Looks like Jack Flaherty is going to be coming out of the bullpen. He and TJ McFarland both provide a scoreless inning, and then Alex Reyes, it looks like, was set to pitch the 8th inning, and then the game was called due to rain, and for the Cubs, 2 of 4 with men in scoring position. So a little bit of a wonky one there. If you wound up betting full game, you likely wound up getting a refund on that, unless if you wound up taking the money line, run line bets, totals. Those typically get refunded in spots like this. With the Philadelphia Phillies and the Miami Marlins, the Marlins were able to get it done by a count of 5-4. For the Phillies, it was Bailey Falter who got the start, and boy, he faltered late in the season, providing an 8.561 ERA for the campaign. Gives up 3 runs over the course of 2 innings. From there, Jose Alvarado, along with Ian Kennedy, Andres Medina, along with Sir Anthony Dominguez, I'll give you a scoreless inning. Cam Bedrosian gives you an out of the bullpen, but Hector Neris, 1 2/3 innings. He does wind up giving up 2 runs, including a homer in the process. Going deep for the Miami Marlins, Nick Fortes, his 4th home run season, and Mr. Pablo Lopez wound up making his first start since pretty much the All-Star break, giving up 1 run in 1 2/3 innings. He did wind up giving up a home run. Going deep for the Philadelphia Phillies off of him, Freddie Galvis, 14th home run season, and Andrew McCutchen will go deep off of Stephen O'Kurt for his 27th home run season, as O'Kurt winds up giving up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings. But then from there, Zach Thompson, Zach Pop, Anthony Bass, Richard Blyer, Dylan Flora, all give you a scoreless inning, and Anthony Bender winds up giving up a run in an inning. So the Phillies close out the year at 82-80. The Minnesota Twins close out the season looking very strong. They wind up taking down the Kansas City Royals by a count of 7-3, as they got a pair of home runs from guys that they're looking to build around. Byron Buxton, 19th home run season. That comes off of Joel Payampas, and Jackson Kowar, who was absolutely terrible after he got called up by the Kansas City Royals, he gives up home run number 33 to one Ore Polanco, and for Kowar, he winds up closing out the year with, I kid you not, an 11.27 ERA, giving up 5 runs over the course of 4 innings. In his 9 total appearances and 8 starts, he didn't necessarily elicit a lot of confidence. Joel Payampas, he gives up 2 runs in his ending of work. Scott Barlow, Josh Staymount were both able to give you a scoreless inning, and Dylan Coleman winds up giving you 2 scoreless innings, as the Royals, ever since the All-Star break, a top 10 bullpen ERA, and unfortunately Salvador Perez was unable to get the outright title when it comes to the home run crown, but For the Minnesota Twins, Charlie Barnes, not necessarily sharp in this one, giving up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned over the course of 2 2/3 innings. But for the Twins, they had a top 8 bullpen ERA over the last 30 days of the season as Juan Minaya, along with Jorge Alcala, 1 1/3 innings scoreless. Kyle Barraclough gives you 5 outs out of the bullpen, and Nick Vincent, 2 scoreless innings out of the bullpen. So a little bit of something to build around there. The Oakland A's didn't have a lot to build around late in the season, and they wind up taking another loss to close out what was a bad September/October for them. 7-6. The Houston Astros get the win as Cole Irvin gave up 3+ runs in 8 out of his last 10 starts, giving up 4 over the course of 6 innings, including not 1, not 2, but 3 home runs, going deep for the Houston Astros off of Mr. Kyle Tucker's 30th home run season. Chas McCormick, his 14th home run season. Jake Myers, his 6th, and then in the 8th inning, Carlos Correa will go deep for his 26th home run of the season, as allowing that one you wound up having Mr. Domingo Acevedo give that up, giving up a solo home run in his inning of work. Sergio Romo, he gives up a run in an inning, and then Lou Trevino in the 9th inning winds up allowing the walk-off hit, as this is an A's bullpen that over the last 45 days had a north of 5 ERA. They completely just faltered late in the season, but you did wind up having a quadrant of home runs for the Oakland A's in this one, as Seth Brown winds up going deep in this one for his 19th and 20th home runs of the season, including a home run off of Zach Greinke in the 9th inning, which that was very strange to see him come in relief, as he winds up going 2 1/3 innings, giving up 2 runs in the process. Blake Taylor winds up giving up a home run in the 9th, as well as Jose Urquidy got the start, giving up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings, including giving up a home run, the Urquidy home run that he wound up giving up. That was to Tony Kemp, 8th home run season, and then Chris Crush Davis got his 3rd home run of the season as well. So had a little bit of strangeness there, but for the Houston Astros, they were able to close out the season at 95-67, being able to close out the year relatively strong as well. That would be the Detroit Tigers, as they wind up taking down the Chicago White Sox by a count of 5-2. And if you took the New York Post play of the day, it was the under in this game, and it wound up hitting for the Detroit Tigers. Give them credit. They were at one point this year, I believe, 14 games below 500 and an above 500 record after the All-Star break, as Tyler Alexander provides 6 strong innings, giving up a solo home run in the process, going deep for the White Sox. Luis Robert, his 13th home run season. From there, you wind up having Drew Hutchinson give up a run in an inning, but Joe Jimenez, Michael Fulmer, able to close it out 8th and 9th innings scoreless, and Des Cameron was able to get a home run in the 9th inning off of Reynaldo Lopez to be able to get the team the W. His 4th home run season. Dylan Cease looks solid in his 4 innings of work, giving up 1 run, 5 punch-outs. Michael Kopech from there, 3 innings giving up a run, but then Mr. Lopez gives up 3 runs while getting just 1 out. Matt Foster gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen. Ryan Tepera, a scoreless inning. So the Tigers were able to close out the season on a high note. Also closing out the season on a high note, you had the Cincinnati Reds taking down the Pittsburgh Pirates by a count of 6-3. Disappointing last few weeks of the season for the Reds, but they were able to get a pair of home runs in this one. Joey Votto, 36th home run season, and after the All-Star break, he had north of 20 bombs, his 36th overall of the season, and Aristides Aquino was able to get his 10th home run season. Mitch Keller gets a start in this one, giving up 1 run over the course of 3 innings, and then Cody Ponce looks like a guy that you can't build around if you're the Pirates. He gives up 4 runs while getting 4 outs, including 1 of those homers. Sam Howard gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen. Anthony Banda gives up a home run in his inning of work. Chad Kuhl, along Kyle Keller, and Mr. Shea Spitzbarth were all able to give you a scoreless inning. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, first career home run in this one. Shout out to Mr. Oniel Cruz, a prospect that the Pirates are very high on. He winds up going deep off of Michael Givens, but that was really the lone form of brightness for the Pittsburgh Pirates, as you had Mr. Riviera San Martin give up 1 run over the course of 6 innings. Amir Garrett, Art Warren both give you a scoreless inning, and then Givens up that home run, 2 runs in total over the course of his inning. The Cleveland Indians, they go to Texas, and they wind up getting a W by a count of 6-0 as Dane Dunning, he was unable to get her Dunning. Gives up 4 runs over the course of 3 innings. He really wanted to progress things towards the back half of the season. Mike Fultonavich does what he does best. He winds up giving up a home run. 2 runs in total over the course of his 2 innings, including a bomb. Matt Bush, at 35 years old, wanted to make an appearance. Scoreless inning for Dennis Santana, Jarrell Cotton, and Drew Anderson. And for the Texas Rangers, absolutely nothing doing in this one, as Aaron Savali looked very strong. 6 scoreless innings. Nick Wicker and Brian Shaw combined for a scoreless inning, and then Anthony Goss and Emmanuel Clase able to give you a scoreless inning, and then Yu Chang was able to go deep off of Mr. Mike Fultonavich, his 9th home run of the season. So what did we all see from the Major League Baseball regular season? Well, you wound up seeing a couple more unders and overs when it came to the MLB regular season, as it was a very interesting year to say the least, and overall the unders have been hitting at a rate of 50.4% in Major League Baseball. 1,159 unders, 1,140 overs, Favorites hit at a rate of 59.4%. 1,424, 972. Home teams, 53.8%. Win rate at 1,302 and 1,117. And if you're just taking a look at final day of Major League Baseball in general, you did wind up seeing 9 games go over the total. Obviously, you had the washout game when it came to the Cubs and the Cardinals, and then I believe that one of those games wound up having a push on the total. I think that was probably that Arizona Diamondbacks game, but if you're looking at the last 3 days overall Major League Baseball, I'm not going to do the last 7 just because last 7 days of the regular season, just a little bit of a hodgepodge, but home teams over these last 30 days, 209 and 205, so hitting at a rate of about 50.5%. Favorites in this time span hitting at just 57.5%, 235 and 174. So we've seen the tomato cans rise up and a very even split between overs and unders. 194 overs, 193 unders. So that's what we wound up seeing trend-wise when it came to the regular season of Major League Baseball. Now we need to turn the page forward to the postseason. Unfortunately, the Seattle Mariners are not going to be taking part in it, but Seattle Mariners pre- and post-game host over there with 710 ESPN in Seattle, Curtis Rogers. He is locked in on everything baseball. We're going to be chatting with him next a little bit to give some flowers to the Seattle Mariners, but more importantly, to take a look at what we're all going to be able to get this postseason. That's on the other side right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast with myself, Greg Peterson.
Greg is calling in a pinch hitter from the Overtime Network hotline.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. Always great to be joined by this guest as he was doing the pre- and post-game work for the Seattle Mariners. Unfortunately, on Sunday came down to the last game of the season, but they were unable to force the game 163. But this man was there every step of the way. I know that he's going to be doing a great job of following everything with this MLB postseason for 710 ESPN out there in the lovely city of Seattle. He does a great job doing some Seattle Seahawks work as well. He also does the Seattle Sports Night and Seattle Sports Saturday podcast, which you're able to find wherever you get this podcast, as we do have Curtis Rogers joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast, and to be able to follow him on Twitter. He is at A Kid From Kent all together on Twitter and also Instagram. And Curtis, great to have you aboard. Thank you.
Great to be with you. Yeah, it was a tough end to the season, but I think there is a foundation laid here in Seattle that could see them back amongst contending teams in the very near future. I mean, it's been, 21 years since they made the playoffs next year, but who's counting? There's a lot of good young players on the way, but I think this year can serve as a good step forward for hopefully a much bigger 2022 season.
I think we can both call it what it was for the Seattle Mariners. They probably won a couple games that they were a little bit lucky to. You just take a look at the run differential. They ended at a minus 51, and they would have had the worst run differential of any team to ever make it in the postseason. But you mentioned it, with the young guys that they've got, they wind up bringing in Abraham Toro at the trade deadline. All of the young guns out there in that bullpen that were able to do such a good job for this team. You had Jared Kelenic after he wound up having a disastrous first run with the team. He looked much better the second time around, and this is a Seattle Mariners team that is probably going to be without Kyle Seager moving forward, but past that, pretty much everyone's going to be back next year.
You mentioned Seager. He got a tremendous send-off on Sunday in what could very potentially be his final game. He's got a $20 million team option for 2022, which does not seem very likely that the Mariners are going to pick it up. Maybe they renegotiate, maybe something works out in that way, but just based off of the send-off he got on Sunday, it does not look like Seager will be back, and that's going to be a huge spot that the Mariners are going to need to fill. And look, he only hit .212 this season, but still played tremendous defense. There's something to be said for having a guy on your team that you can set in your lineup every single day and not have to worry about, and that's what the Mariners have had at third base, a premium position for the last decade. So there's going to be a hole there to fill, and like you said, I mean, there's going to be other spots on this team, and I think this is a team that has been very, cautious to spend over the last few years, and now there is a prime opportunity for them to really unleash the pocketbooks and go after some of these top-flight free agents. I mean, obviously, the big fish this offseason would probably be like Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, Marcus Semien in terms of that left side of the infield. But there are going to be other names out there, too, that I think the Mariners should be in on. Some starting pitching as well. Kevin Gausman from the Giants, I think, is somebody that they might take a look at. Heck, American League Cy Young favorite Robbie Ray could be another guy that they might look at. I mean, they're going to be a very active team in free agency. And I think the hope here in Seattle is that they land at least one of these big fish, maybe two, maybe three. Who knows how it goes.
it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the Seattle Mariners moving forward. And a lot of the names that you mentioned that they're going to be going after, they're guys that we're going to be seeing in the postseason. And I'm sure that Major League Baseball is very pumped about this wild card game that we're going to be getting on Tuesday. Yankees, Red Sox. You've got the Red Sox right now as a slight underdog with Nathan Eovaldi going up against Garrett Cole. And this is baseball at its finest. The oldest rivalry in the sport, one game to decide who winds up going to the American League Divisional Series and faces off against the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, whichever of these teams winds up winning, I think that the Rays will be able to dispatch them, but I think that this is going to be a really fascinating showdown, especially with the fact that the Red Sox dominated the series earlier in the year, but then the Yankees wound up winning 8 out of the last 11.
Yeah, and what's interesting about the Yankees and how confident they're feeling heading into this is, had there been the doomsday four-way tie scenario, the Yankees would have chosen to play the Red Sox in that first round of the play-in games where the Mariners would have had to play Toronto. So the Yankees basically were saying, look, we know we can beat these Red Sox. We're going to go out and do it in an absolute do-or-die scenario. So maybe they have the confidence going into this one. Obviously, Garrett Cole is going to be the story of this game. He has not looked like himself over the last 3 starts, really in the month of September, ever since that virtuoso 15 strikeout performance against the Angels. He has seen his ERA rise pretty much with every start, hasn't gotten past the 6th inning in any of those starts, and has allowed the long ball. He has allowed, I think, 6 home runs this month, 24 on the season. So he has ran into some trouble. But look, Nathan Eovaldi, kind of the same thing. He was looking like a potential Cy Young candidate there as well. Eovaldi is somebody that, can obviously strike anybody out at will. I mean, he did have a really good performance on the 29th against Baltimore, going 6 shutout innings, but the start before that against this Yankees team, only 2 2/3 innings pitched, allowed 7 earned runs in a game that the Red Sox lost 8-3 to the Yankees at home. Other than that, Eovaldi has, what he is as a postseason pitcher, and the better ones. We all remember that relief appearance he had for the Red Sox back in the World Series in 2018, where he threw, I think it was 7 innings of relief in that 18-inning game. Yeah, he got the loss because Max Muncy hit the solo home run to win it, but I don't think any of us will ever forget watching that game and just how deep into the wee hours it went. We're based out on the West Coast here, Greg, and that game still went to about 1 a.m. So, I mean, you look at Eovaldi, he's got the Tiger blood that you need to have success in the postseason, but look, this Yankees team has his number as of late, and, as of late was just, about a week and a half ago? It's going to be a very interesting matchup pitching-wise with Eovaldi and Cole. 2 guys really looking to bounce back, really looking to prove that what you saw from them recently, not the pitchers that they are. They have something more to offer these teams going forward. But look, you could not ask for a better American League wildcard game. You could not ask for a better National League wildcard game either. You look at these 4 teams, Greg, you could make the argument that these are the 4 blue bloods of the sport. You've got Boston and New York in the American League, and the Cardinals and Dodgers in the National League.
Oh, and that game is going to be so intriguing, as well as we do have Curtis Rogers of 710 ESPN joining me on the podcast. That Dodgers versus Cardinals game, you got the Dodgers as a big, giant favorite, but I can't count out the St. Louis Cardinals. Adam Wainwright, at 40 years old, threw more than 200 innings for the first time since 2014. He appears to be a man on the mission, and you take a look at Max Scherzer. The Dodgers have won every one of his starts ever since he got to L.A., but in his last 2 starts, he's given up a combined 11 runs, 10 of which were earned. Now, one of those starts was against Coors Field, and as we know, wacky things happen at Coors Field, but he's honestly coming in the world's greatest form, and I do recognize that this is a Dodgers team that has the second-best bullpen ERA in the big leagues, but you take a look at the Dodgers bullpen, guys like Phil Bickford, Alex Vesia have had to step up for them, and I don't know if they're going to be able to hold up in this game against the St. Louis Cardinals. And what is the reward for the LA Dodgers being able to do all that they've done, win 106 games, go out there, be one of the best teams in baseball, a 1-game wild card to try to get into the postseason?
Cardinals lost their last 2 games of the season to the Cubbies, but they won 17 in a row going into that Milwaukee series. And then after losing that 1 game to the Brewers 4-0, they won the next 2. So they had won 19 of 20 at one point heading into this weekend. They're 19-3 in their last 22. This is a Cardinals team that is just playing with their hair on fire right now and just playing as though every single pitch means the world to them. And, I mean, if you're the Dodgers, you could not ask for a worse opponent to be facing in this wild card round because of, look, like you mentioned, Max Scherzer has not been his normal lights-out self his last two times out there. And the Dodgers, for whatever reason, may feel like, hey, we're better than this wild card round. We need to go out there and show that. But maybe the Cardinals, continue this run and kind of rise up on the Dodgers and surprise them because, look, I mean, when you win 19 of 22, that is no joke. And 17 in a row, there is something to be said about that. Look, Adam Wainwright, like we talked about with Nathan Eovaldi, I mean, Adam Wainwright is a postseason pitcher. When you think of the biggest Cardinals moments of the last 20 years or so, Wainwright is right there, up there with guys like David Freese and Albert Pujols and all that. I mean, getting the final out of the 06 World Series, getting the final out of the 06 NLCS against the Mets, and just every big game that Adam Wainwright has pitched, seeing him dip into the fountain of youth this season, having a classic Adam Wainwright season, like you said, at age 40. And by all accounts, he's coming back next year and running it back for the Cardinals, him and Yachty. Who else would be back for the Cardinals other than those two? I think Wainwright is just going to be ready to go, and I'm super excited to watch that game take place. I think Cardinals and Dodgers is going to be the most competitive game of these two. Even though the Yankees and Red Sox play each other so much, I still think that what the Cardinals have done over the last month and what the Dodgers have done over the last season, I mean, you could not ask for a better National League wild card than what we're going to see this week.
I am right there with you, and it sets up an intriguing series, whether it be Cardinals versus Giants or Giants versus Dodgers, because in both of those season series, it was relatively split. The St. Louis Cardinals had some success against the Giants this year. Obviously, when it comes to Dodgers versus Giants, they were relatively equal throughout the season as well. I take a look at the flip side at that Braves versus Brewers matchup, with the Brewers being a little bit depleted in the bullpen, and the Atlanta Braves have had a nice run, but at the same time, they don't necessarily have that frontline pitching. Whoever winds up coming out of that series, I think has a good chance to not only get to the World Series, but perhaps be a favorite in the World Series, no matter who comes out in the American League.
Well, and that Brewers team, Greg, we talked a lot about them and how great their bullpen was and how that could really help them. But man, oh man, the loss of Devin Williams, that is going to be just massive. And they've kind of limped to the finish line here, only winning 4 games against the Mets and the Cardinals here, getting swept by the Dodgers in L.A., getting swept by the Cardinals earlier, 4-game sweep, losing Devin Williams, and especially in the way that they lost him drunkenly punching a wall during their National League Central title celebration. I can't remember an injury happening quite like that at a worse time, especially somebody as reliable as Williams has been over his short Major League career. The bridge to get to Josh Hader now is considerably shakier without Williams now. Look, the Brewers have great starting pitching. Brandon Woodruff, you've got Freddie Peralta, you've got Corbin Burns. Those guys are going to pitch very well, and they're going to get their innings and whatnot. But once those games get into the 6th and the 7th and the 8th innings, how do you get the ball to Josh Hader? That's a big question mark right now for the Brewers. And I was very much on the Brewers wagon prior to the Devin Williams injury. Now, boy, I am having a really tough time seeing them come away with that National League title if it comes down to it.
I agree, as we do have Curtis Rogers of 710 ESPN joining me on the podcast. And part of it as well is that with the Brewers, I just don't necessarily have a lot of faith in Freddie Peralta as well, because I thought what the Brewers had going for them was that you've got Woodruff, you've got Corbin Burns, and you've got Freddie Peralta, 3 frontline starters. And Woodruff has been a little bit shaky the last few weeks. Freddie Peralta, since coming off the injury list, has given up 3 runs or more in all but one of his starts as well. So that really makes me sour on them a little bit. If they wind up going up against the St. Louis Cardinals or the San Francisco Giants, I don't think that they get out of that series. I don't like the Atlanta Braves in either of those series as well. And I think that what you're probably going to wind up getting is some less than sexy matchup in the World Series where it winds up being the Tampa Bay Rays against the San Francisco Giants. Perhaps you wind up getting like the St. Louis Cardinals, the LA Dodgers, something like that. And I think that that would be of great intrigue in general, as I really do think that we have a little bit of a debate in the National League, but I still like the Tampa Bay Rays to come out in the American League.
I do too. I think the Rays are just a team that is unshaken in these moments. They learned a lot last year in their postseason run and how to close out a series. I know they had a tough time in the American League Championship Series against the Astros, where they were up 3-0, and Houston rattles off 3 straight to force a Game 7. Tampa Bay did sneak out that Game 7, but I think in those moments they kind of learned what sort of makeup they had as a team, what sort of character they had in those kinds of big moments. You know, they're going to face a division rival, whether it be the Red Sox or Yankees in that American League Division Series. It's going to be a team they're familiar with, and I look at Kevin Cash. I think last year he may have overmanaged in that World Series, especially when we talk about, pulling Blake Snell in the 6th inning when he was having one of his best starts of his career. I think Kevin Cash is a manager that is very adaptable. He learns, he's teachable, and I think he learned in that moment that maybe, just maybe, the spreadsheet isn't exactly what should be dictating my moves here when this guy is, looking like the Cy Young version of himself from a couple of years ago. So I think the Rays they have so much offensive firepower. There are no breaks in that lineup whatsoever, and their pitching has just been so evenly spread out amongst the rotation and amongst that bullpen of theirs. I mean, there is very little weaknesses on this Rays team, if any. So I think they are the deepest team in the American League. But if I've got a team to watch out for in the American League, I mean, it's not really, a surprise or anything, but I think the Astros are a team that could really turn some heads again. If you're not tired of the Astros in the postseason, this is the postseason for you, because they're right back at it again, going up against the White Sox, rematch of that 2005 World Series. But they still have plenty of firepower in that offense. They're right back in a very familiar spot, and they've got tons of experience. So if I look at this American League side of the bracket, I think Tampa Bay and Houston could very well be in line for a rematch in the American League Championship Series.
And I think the biggest upset that we wind up seeing in this entire postseason would be if the White Sox wind up taking down the Astros, because I just think that the Astros are unequivocally better than the White Sox at this point. Now, with the White Sox, you do have a pair of guys that are very good frontline starters in Lance Lynn along with Carlos Rodon, but with both of those guys, they've both been dealing with some injury issues. They've only been going about 5 innings in a lot of their recent starts. The bullpen has been shored up a little bit, but I just take a look at this White Sox team, and they've struggled all year long on the road, and they're going to need to rectify those woes as they went 40-41 on the road this year if they want to be able to get just past this first series in general.
Yeah, it's going to be just a crazy, crazy way for them to figure out how to maneuver this bracket. I mean, the National League, I think, is just so much more up in the air than it is in the American League, because you've got two teams that have won over 100 games in the Dodgers and the Giants, and they're going to be facing off in the National League Division Series. But look, if you're the Braves, if you're a team that is looking to kind of sneak up on people, you couldn't have asked for a better matchup in that first round going up against the Brewers, a team that, like we've talked about, have taken a significant hit in their bullpen. And look, the Braves, they're a team that has been in this spot before over the last couple of years. Now, they've dealt with a ton of injuries this season, most notably to Ronald Acuna. If he were in this lineup, I don't think it would be any question as to whether or not the Braves would move on. But, I mean, look, it is the Braves, though. They are notorious for falling short in the postseason. Outside of 1995, they are a team that routinely will put up some of the most head-scratching performances. What was it, a couple of years ago in, Game 5 of the National League Division Series against the Cardinals?
Down 10-0 in the first inning.
Yeah, down 10-0 to the Cardinals, and it was like, why are we even watching this game anymore? So who knows? Maybe that's behind them, but I don't know. The Braves, they are such a tough team to predict in October, but if they do want to move past the Brewers, I think they've got a very advantageous matchup to do so.
It's going to be so much fun to watch this postseason. And Curtis, I know that would have been a little bit more fun had the Seattle Mariners been able to win on Sunday, be able to force a game 163, but I know that you're going to be dialed in on all this. I know that now your duties turn a little bit more to the Seattle Seahawks, getting prepared for the college basketball season, and we know this, the Seattle Mariners are going to be back in 2022 and beyond as well. So all the good people at home know what you've all got going on right now, as I know that you've got a pair of podcasts that you do as well, and how people are able to follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, I mean, we are just, we're less than 7 weeks away from the start of college basketball season, getting super hyped for that, Greg. I love appearing on your college basketball podcast as well. And then also, like you said, sort of pivoting now towards more of the NFL coverage up here in Seattle as the Seahawks are about a quarter of the way done with their season. And then also we've got Kraken hockey starting up soon here too. So plenty of stuff going on here in the Northwest. And yeah, like Greg said, if you want to follow along, add a kid from Ken on Twitter, and on Instagram is where you want to be. And Greg, always a pleasure stopping by with you and talking some baseball.
Always great to get Curtis on the podcast. He delivers every single time, and I know that he's going to be dialed in to everything that we're going to be seeing this postseason, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see what we get in. You got a little bit of a primer there. So big thanks to Curtis Rogers for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast. And coming up next, I'm going to be taking a look at both wild card matchups that we do have, as we know the pitchers for both games. So I'm going to give you a sign total for both wild card games coming up next, and a little something like call, touch 'em all.
Welcome back to the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson, as we're off to a quality start, and now it's time to walk it off in a grand fashion.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. Always a pleasure to have our good friend Curtis Rogers of 710 ESPN out there in Seattle joining the podcast. And I'm going to be taking a look at both of these games in the coming days as well. But with us not having any Major League Baseball action on Monday and us knowing what the matchups are going to be in the wild card, I'm going to give you guys my current side and total for both of these wild card games as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Order is very simple on this one. We're going to be going with the American League game first, since that's being played on Tuesday. National League game on Wednesday. Not going to be able to give you anything for the divisional series yet, because we've got undetermined matchups. We've got a couple to-be-determined starters, but once we get more of those, I'll be giving you that throughout the week as well, so have no fear there. But we're going to be starting out with the American League wildcard game in 9:37, 9:38 on the betting board. The New York Yankees hitting the road to face off against the Boston Red Sox in a game that I'm sure is making many people in the front offices of baseball happy with regards to the rating, as Nathan Eovaldi is going to be going for the Red Sox and Garrett Cole is on the bump for the Yankees. The Yankees are anywhere between -112 and -120. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Sox, you're going to be getting them anywhere between even money and +105. Your total on this game is anywhere between 8.5 and 9. On the 8.5, over is anywhere between -115 and -120. The under is anywhere between even and -105. On the 9, under is anywhere between -115 and -125. Meanwhile, the over is anywhere between -105 and +105. I set the total at 8.4. So on the 8.5 or the 9, I'm going to be taking a look at the under in this spot. Also keep in mind, I have no New York Post play of the day for today, but I will have one on the American League game for Tuesday, and on Wednesday I will have one for the National League game. So just a little bit of a side note there, but I take a look at this one, and I do think that the Yankees should have a little bit more of an edge. I wound up setting them more in the realm of about a -130, -131-ish favorite, because I do take a look at Garrett Cole, and I just think that he's flat out the better pitcher in this spot. You take a look at what he's been able to do so far this year, 3.23 ERA. I do recognize that he's given up 3+ runs in now 4 out of his last 5 starts, but this is also a man that ever since coming off the COVID IL has looked relatively solid. The deep ball has been hurting him. He's given up 5 home runs over the course of his last 3 starts, but you also take a look at Nathan Eovaldi, and I do recognize the fact that he has been significantly better at home than he has been on the road, but his last home start, he gave up 7 runs over the course of 2 2/3 innings against the Yankees, and we really saw the tide shift when it came to the season series, as the Boston Red Sox were just all over the New York Yankees to begin the year. They wound up winning each out of the first 7, and then the New York Yankees, they came back with a vengeance. I believe that they wound up going 8-3 in the last 11, so that is something that I'm keeping in mind with the Yankees. You do have quite a few guys that they don't necessarily do the world's greatest job when it comes to batting average. Gary Sanchez, along with Brett Gardner, you're able to throw in their Kyle Higashioka whenever he's out there. Got a lot of guys hitting a 230 or lower, but Anthony Rizzo has been very stable for the team, hitting right around at 250. DJ LeMahieu, along Gio Urshela are able to reach base. Gleyber Torres has been able to show you a little bit of pulse. Then you've got a trio of guys with at least 34 home runs. you've got Giancarlo Stanton along with Mr. Gallo. You're able to throw in there Aaron Judge, who wound up having the walk-off hit on Sunday. These guys are coming through in droves for the team. And then you take a look at the Boston Red Sox, and we noticed that over the last week with them playing against the Washington Nationals and the Baltimore Orioles. They've been waiting on their offense. Now, they were able to score 4+ runs in all 3 of their games against the Nationals, but it felt like all the runs wound up coming in the 7th inning or later, and they've been having a little bit of a difficult time getting it in gear. And if they try to do that against the New York Yankees, I think it's going to nip them in the tuchus, especially with the fact that Jonathan Loáisiga is back in the bullpen for the New York Yankees. Aroldis Chapman is starting to look a little bit more like the Aroldis Chapman of old, and just at the right time, you've got a guy in Luis Severino that can be used for a couple innings for this team along Domingo Germán. And then you take a look at this Boston Red Sox offense, and got a lot of guys hitting in between, I would say, about a 255 to more like a 275-ish. Rafael Devers is now just above that, but he has been able to give the team now 38 home runs. You've got Mr. Hunter Renfroe along Kyle Schwarber, 30-plus home runs. Both of these guys hitting in that realm of about a 255 to a 266. Christian Vasquez is hitting right around a 260 for the team, along with Christian Arroyo as well. Bobby Dahlbeck, by the way, he has been a little bit underrated. 25 home runs so far this year, but in the last 30 days, he has right around a 315 on base, supplying 7 bombs. He's cooled off a little bit ever since he wound up having a very nice, I would say, late August/early September, but he's been able to provide a little bit of something along with Alex Verdugo and JD Martinez, both hitting between about a 285 to 290. Obviously, you've got Xander Bogaerts as well, but I do take a look at this spot, and I do think that the Red Sox bullpen, it's been a little bit on sand recently. As I take a look at Matt Barnes, he regressed towards the back half of the season. Adam Ottavino, it's been an adventure with him. You're able to throw out their guys like Garrett Richards and company, but they haven't necessarily been too solid. Ansel Robles has been able to rein it in the last 30 days. That's over the last 30 days. He has not allowed a single run in his appearances, but we remember in the first half of his stint with Boston was not necessarily going well. So I wound up saying this all at 8.4. I think that both of these starters are going to perform well, but I do give the edge here to Garrett Cole. Set the Yankees at minus 131. So right now, taking a look at the Yankees and the under, and then we move on to 939, 940 on the betting board. The LA Dodgers are going to be playing against the St. Louis Cardinals. Adam Wainwright is going to be going for the Cards, and Mad Max Scherzer on the bump for the Dodgers. 7.5 is your total. The over and under are anywhere between minus 105 and minus 115, with the Dodgers getting them between minus 205 and minus 220. Meanwhile, on the Cardinals, you're going to be getting them anywhere between plus 180 and plus 195. I was saying this just pretty much on Twitter and a little bit on VSiN as well. If I was getting north of a plus 170 with the Cardinals, I was willing to take them. And you know what? I set the line right around a plus 172. We have got north of that, so I'm going to be sticking to my guns, and I am going to be going with the St. Louis Cardinals in this spot. I really don't put any stock into the fact that they wound up losing their last 2 against the Chicago Cubs because, well, the game on Sunday was a little bit of a quagmire as that wound up getting rained out in the 8th inning. And then you've got a Cardinals team that they've just been firing all cylinders. Paul Goldschmidt, over the last 2.5 months, he's been hitting right around a 335 to a 340-ish. He has been absolutely incredible for this team. And you've got so many guys, they're able to step up and they're able to contribute for this team. Armando Sosa is now off the injured list. He's the guy that's hitting right around a 272, 275. You've got a trio of guys with at least 30 home runs. Paul Goldschmidt, who I mentioned earlier, Nolan Arenado, and Tyler O'Neill. And O'Neill has been absolutely amazing for this team recently as he's hitting about a 285. Then you just take a look up and down the list. Harrison Bader, Dylan Carlson, Jose Rondon, along Tommy Edman, all ending at 262 to a 265. And I recognize that the St. Louis Cardinals did not wind up winning the regular season series against the Dodgers, but they were able to play them relatively tough. You even take a look at what wound up happening the last time these two teams met in St. Louis. It was a 4-game split. So you've got a Cardinals team that has been able to play them really well. You've got a bullpen that I like the way that they've been looking recently as well. Alex Reyes wound up getting pulled out of the closer spot. Giovanni Gallegos has been able to do a solid job there. You've got to figure that you're going to be having Dakota Hudson and Kwon Young Kim as super relievers for this team. Cody Whitley has even been able to give you a couple solid innings if he winds up making the postseason roster along Luis Garcia. And for the Dodgers, they do have the number 2 bullpen ERA out there in the big leagues, and they've gotten contributions from a lot of places that you wouldn't expect. Justin Brule, Phil Bickford, Alex Vesia, these guys have been solid, but I do question what winds up happening in a big spot for them because this is a grizzled St. Louis Cardinals team. Now, on the flip side for the LA Dodgers, you've got a whole bunch of guys that are absolutely mashing for this team as Chris Taylor, AJ Pollock, Mookie Betts, Justin Turner down for what, Trey Turner down for what, Will Smith, Max Muncy, all have been able to provide at least 20 home runs for you. All of these guys really, aside from Muncy, are hitting above a 250, and he's at a 249, so they've all been able to come through in droves. Even Albert Pujols has been able to give you some home runs. Corey Seager is hitting something like a 350 over the last 30 days, so I do think that you're going to be able to get quite a few runs in this spot. But with Adam Wainwright, he wound up being one of the league leaders with regards to innings pitched. Now, I do recognize that he wound up having a little bit of a rough start against the Milwaukee Brewers about 2 weeks ago, and he hasn't necessarily been the same on the road that he has been at home. But you take a look at him, he's given up 3 runs or fewer, and now 13 out of his last 16 starts. He's been able to do a rock-solid job for the St. Louis Cardinals team all year long. He has given up a grand total of 5 home runs the last 2 months, and that is over the course of 12 starts, so he's done a good job of keeping the ball in the yard. And Max Scherzer, he comes in having had his worst 2 starts with the LA Dodgers, a combined 11 runs, 10 of which were earned, given up in his last 10 1/3 innings. Now, one of those starts was at Coors Field, and the team has won every one of his starts with the LA Dodgers, but a lot of this is because the Dodgers have stepped up behind him with the bats every single time. Max Scherzer has received at least 4 runs of support in every one of his starts with the LA Dodgers. I do think that the Dodgers do wind up getting to 4 runs in this spot. I wound up setting this total at an 8.1, so even at an 8, I'd be taking a look at the over, but I do take a look at the Cardinals. I certainly don't think that they should be a favorite, but getting north of a plus 170, going to be taking a look at there, and I'm going to be taking a look at this total over. And that will wrap things up for the Baseball Betting Podcast on this Monday. Unfortunately, we don't have any games today, but now we've got postseason action that is going to be starting up on Tuesday. It is going to be spectacular, and it's always spectacular to get Curtis Rogers of 710 ESPN on this podcast. So big thanks to him. If you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you've got a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you've got one of 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at GR_1. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'm going to be coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, which means I'm coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.